Tonight, protest and outrage after a Tufts University grad student was arrested and taken away outside her home. Students and supporters taking to the streets. The video of her arrest by 6 officers sparking new fears and new questions about why she was targeted. And the new number just revealed how many others had their visas revoked like this. Gang leader captured. The Attorney General praising an early morning raid. An alleged top leader of the MS-13 gang arrested at his mother's home in Virginia. RFK Jr.'s massive health cuts. The Health and Human Service Secretary slashing his agency, cutting 10,000 workers. What it means for everything from disease prevention to Medicare. Tesla terrorist caught. The arrest today and the attacks on Teslas at a Las Vegas service center. Why authorities say he torched those cars. Deadly voyage under the sea. The tourist submarine sinking, 6 people killed. What went wrong? And breaking late tonight, King Charles hospitalized. What the palace just revealed about his health battle. Plus, parole denied. The woman who killed superstar singer Selena will remain in prison. The decision just in. Top Story starts right now. Good evening. I'm Ellison Barber in for Tom Llamas. Tonight, anger pouring onto the streets after a Tufts University student is detained by ICE. The latest arrest raising new questions about the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, now appearing to specifically target student visa holders. New video showing crowds outraged as demonstrators demand the release of Rumisa Ozturk. This is a surveillance video as Ozturk was approached by Homeland Security agents in plain clothes, arrested, and then whisked off of a suburban Boston street. DHS says that she was engaged in activities that support Hamas, but they did not give any proof or additional explanations. Her friends telling the Associated Press she was not involved in campus protests and that the extent of her activism at Tufts is this, co-writing an opinion piece published in Tufts student paper, quote, demanding that the university acknowledge the Palestinian genocide and, quote, disclose its investments and divest from companies with direct or indirect ties to Israel. This comes just weeks after Mahmoud Khalil, an organizer for pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University, was also detained by ICE. Both students taken to separate facilities in Louisiana. A federal judge ordered Ozturk to be kept in Massachusetts, but she was already transferred out of the state. NBC correspondent Stephanie Goss starts us off tonight from outside Tufts University in Massachusetts.
Tonight, protests calling for the release of Tufts University graduate student Rumisa Ozturk. The 30-year-old Turkish citizen here on a student visa, according to her attorney. Video obtained by NBC News shows her being detained Tuesday by 6 federal agents not wearing uniforms and masked, telling her they are the police and taking her away.
And there was no allegation that she has violated any law whatsoever.
Massachusetts Democratic Attorney General Andrea Campbell is working with Ozturk's attorney.
What information specifically are you looking to get from the federal government?
What's the timeline here? Is she a threat to any community? Because based on every assessment we've done here in Massachusetts, where, of course, she was attending school, she is not.
DHS posting DHS and ICE investigations found Ozturk engaged in activities in support of Hamas, a foreign terrorist organization, but gave no further details. A year ago, Ozturk co-wrote an opinion article in the school newspaper that called on the university to label the war in Gaza a genocide and divest from companies tied to Israel. Immigration law gives Secretary of State Rubio power to deport visa holders who would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences to the U.S.
We revoked her visa. We gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses.
During the campaign, President Trump promised to deport foreign students involved in pro-Palestinian protests on campuses, where some Jewish students reported being harassed and assaulted.
If you hate America, if you want to eliminate Israel, we will throw you out of our country so rapidly your head will spin.
DHS has not revealed evidence of Ozturk's role in protests, and her friend called her detainment shocking.
There's definitely a feeling of feeling very unsettled and scared right now, and people not knowing what to do.
And Stephanie joins us now from Medford, Massachusetts. Stephanie, do we know anything else about the timeline in terms of how Ozturk went from Massachusetts to Louisiana, despite apparently not being supposed to be sent out of the state?
Yeah, I mean, Allison, that's a really big question about this case, because according to her attorney, she was taken to Louisiana on Wednesday, which would have been the day after a federal judge ordered she stay in Massachusetts, at least until the court could determine whether or not she was being detained legally. Now, I specifically asked that question of the Attorney General when I spoke with her, the Attorney General of Massachusetts, and she said that actually the timeline remains a bit unclear. If it took place the way that her attorney says it did, it would be an open defiance of a court order here in Massachusetts, and unclear what ramifications there would be if that was the case. Allison?
All right, a lot to watch there. Stephanie Gosk, thank you. Now to the arrest in Virginia of a man who the Department of Justice is describing as a top MS-13 gang leader. MS-13 is considered to be one of the most violent gangs in the world, with members stretching from the United States to Central America. Here's how Attorney General Pam Bondi described the arrest.
Early this morning, one of the top leaders of MS-13 was apprehended. He was the leader for the East Coast, one of the top 3 in the entire country. Right here in Virginia, living half an hour outside of Washington, D.C.
Ken Delaney covers the Justice Department for us and joins us now with more. Ken, talk to us about how this all happened. How were authorities able to track this individual down to this home, his mother's in Virginia?
Officials aren't saying exactly how they located Henry Josu Villatora. Ellison, court documents say this was his mother's home, as you said, and she had reported a burglary at that address in August 2024. The records say FBI agents conducting surveillance had seen Villatoro entering and exiting that residence throughout March of this year.
And Ken, we heard there Attorney General Bondi calling this individual one of the top 3 MS-13 leaders in the entire country. MS-13, unlike some of the other gangs that people might be familiar with, they're usually thought of as sort of the least organized in terms of having a hierarchy and having a real organized crime structure compared to other criminal outfits. But we haven't really gotten a whole lot of details beyond what Pam Bondi has said, right? I mean, what else do we know about this guy? How high up was he in MS-13?
Well, there actually was a striking difference between what Attorney General Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel said at their morning news conference and what court documents say about Villatoro. Bondi and Patel have not explained their basis for calling him an MS-13 leader, and court records don't explain it either, Ellison. The documents say that the 24-year-old native of El Salvador is in the country illegally and was arrested on an administrative warrant. And after they discovered firearms in his possession, he was charged with illegal gun possession by an alien. The court papers go on to say that law enforcement officials observed indicia of MS-13 association while searching his bedroom, but the documents made no other reference to MS-13 and his alleged leadership role. Now, of course, it's possible the government is withholding intelligence that they have because they're trying to catch some of his associates, but it is unusual for top officials to make a public claim like this without backing it up. Villatora made a brief court appearance today and was held pending a detention hearing. Worth noting that the MS-13 gang was one of 8 Latin American criminal organizations declared foreign terrorist organizations by the Trump administration last month, Ellison.
Ken Delaney, thank you. We appreciate it. We're also following massive cuts announced today at the Department of Health and Human Services. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying he will eliminate roughly 10,000 jobs across multiple agencies. Together with previous departures, this means a roughly 24% reduction in HHS workforce since the start of the Trump administration. The cuts could impact everything from food safety to Medicare. Our senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell is tracking this from the White House, or from Washington, rather, just outside of the White House there, and joins us now. Kelly, walk us through these cuts. When we're talking about agencies that could have cuts, which ones do we expect to be impacted?
Well, one of the things that is striking about this is the Department of Health and Human Services, which is vast and covers all kinds of aspects of American life that ordinary citizens will feel. The agencies that do disease prevention, that provide approvals for the new drugs that we might be taking. And also seniors would be affected by Medicare and others would be affected by Medicaid. So it affects a broad swath of American life. They're reducing the agencies that operate underneath the department from 24 into 15. They're cutting jobs at things like the Food and Drug Administration. A fewer number of jobs, only a few hundred in the Medicare, Medicaid services area. And Kennedy says that what he wants to do is streamline some of the programs, like things that deal with disease prevention and chronic health and substance abuse, into one department and to not have all separate offices. Now, advocates are concerned about this because having such steep cuts in personnel for an agency that has a lot of outreach to the American people and people who want to call and get information and have to deal with specific offices. By reducing that, there are those who question how can they do more with significantly less, and these cuts are considered deep. At the same time, this is in line with what the Trump administration is trying to do, reducing the size of the federal workforce. And in many ways, Kennedy is remaking this in the ways that reflect his view of public health, which is more of a focus on healthy food and questions about different kinds of drugs and wanting to reduce the impact of big pharma. So it's a significant change that's coming. They're saying this is the only expected cuts that are coming, but it will take time and will be difficult, he acknowledges, to try to streamline this agency.
And Kelly, we've also heard tonight about a court order on those war texts that we've been reporting on so extensively. What more do we know?
Well, there was a court hearing, and it was a brief one, and Judge Boasberg, and if you've heard that name before, he has been presiding over some other matters related to the Trump administration. That use of which judge comes up is a random thing that the court assigns, and this one was about preserving the conversation that was in text form in the Signal commercial app, the encrypted app. And so what the watchdog group that brought the action for a temporary restraining order wants to have that information preserved. There's a question about presidential records when senior officials are having meaningful conversations in writing about important policy matters. That is supposed to be preserved on behalf of the American people. So the judge is saying, yes, try to preserve that. The government is saying they are trying to gather the specifics from the text from March 11th through the 15th to try to have a full record.
Kelly O'Donnell in Washington, thank you. Tonight, U.S. car dealerships are bracing for a major price hike as new tariffs on imported cars and auto parts are expected to go into effect soon. Higher prices expected to impact consumers on both domestic and foreign vehicles. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Roman has more on how much more you might have to pay.
Tonight, at car dealerships across the country,
your phones are ringing.
They're ringing. Customers are concerned.
We first met George Glassman last month. He owns Mitsubishi, Kia, Hyundai, Subaru, and Genesis dealerships in Michigan.
They want to make sure that they're getting in if they need a car and making that deal before the tariffs kick in. Consumers are going to bear the brunt of this, and it's going to be painful.
Car shoppers, dealers, and manufacturers bracing for higher prices as the president puts 25% tariffs on imported cars and auto parts.
If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
But almost half of cars sold in the U.S. and 60% of auto parts are imported. Goldman Sachs estimating tariffs could add $5,000 to $15,000 to the price of foreign-made cars and $3,000 to $8,000 on cars made in the U.S. because of border taxes on the parts. For Damon Jefferson, who works on an assembly line in Detroit, that cost may be worth it.
The American people have to realize that Trump is putting these tariffs in place to be able to keep the American people working.
The Trump administration banking on tariffs to spur more investments and bring factories back to the U.S. But retooling a factory is slow and costly.
The president would love to see all vehicles in the United States built in the U.S. with 100% U.S.-made parts. That's not going to happen. The industry is set up on a regional basis, so there will still be production in Mexico and in Canada.
Canada's prime minister says the U.S. is no longer a reliable partner.
We will respond forcefully. Nothing is off the table to defend our workers and our country.
Here in Miami, the Canadian government paying for billboards telling Americans, Tariffs are a tax on your grocery bill.
And Christine joins us now from New York. So, Christine, with these tariffs going into effect, what does any retaliatory action look like from the European Union?
Well, the President of the United States has threatened America's trading partners that if they retaliate against the United States, he'll retaliate more, potentially raising even more tariffs. That's what a trade war looks like, when everyone's sort of firing in a circle here and raising costs overall. The French president said that, telling journalists that he told the president that his trade war was a waste of time and would raise costs for everyone and not a good idea. But clearly Donald Trump and the Trump administration think it is a good idea. It is America first. So we can expect more trade action from the U.S. side and potentially more retaliation in the days ahead, Allison.
Christine Romans, thank you. We're following some breaking news out of the UK, where Buckingham Palace says King Charles was taken to the hospital after receiving a scheduled cancer treatment. So let's get right to NBC's Raf Sanchez, who joins us now from London. Raf, walk us through this. What's the latest?
So, Ellison, Buckingham Palace is saying that earlier on today, the king suffered what they are calling temporary side effects from that cancer treatment. We don't know exactly what it was he was going through, but he was taken to hospital for a short period of observation. Whatever it wasn't serious enough that they felt that he needed to overnight in the hospital. He was there for a couple of hours. He then returned to Clarence House. It's his residence here in London. Now, he is said to be in good spirits. He continued to work from home over the course of the day today, but this did scramble his schedule. It meant his whole afternoon plans were cleared, and he was supposed to be on a trip here in the UK tomorrow. That has now been postponed. Elson.
And Raf, I mean, it's been more than a year now since the king announced that he had cancer. At the time, Buckingham Palace and the royals, they weren't saying what kind of cancer the king had. What do we know about his condition?
You know, we really don't know much, Ellison, either about his sickness or about his treatment. As you say, he was in hospital early last year. He was treated for an enlarged prostate. And the palace says that in the course of that treatment, they discovered the cancer. They have never said exactly what kind of cancer it is. They have said it is not prostate cancer. And we also don't know a whole lot about his treatment, whether it involves chemotherapy, whether it involves radiotherapy. You can see the king day by day looks to be in pretty good health. He is keeping up a pretty active schedule. But the palace says that they keep his medical treatment in mind when they are thinking about how much he should travel, how much he should be interacting with the public. And they are saying they do not believe that the king is worn down by his duties, and that's why he was in hospital today. Also.
Raf Sanchez in London, thank you. We're back in a moment with late-breaking news. Selena's killer up for parole for the first time in 30 years. The decision just in from the parole board. Plus, who was torching Teslas? The arrest just made in Las Vegas. What we know about the man who allegedly set these cars on fire. And home invasion. The alligator in this Louisiana home. How the police wrestled him away. We're back now with late-breaking news. The woman convicted of murdering Mexican-American music star Selena has been denied parole. 64-year-old Yolanda Saldivar, who once ran Selena's fan club, is currently serving a life sentence for the 1995 killing that shocked the music world. NBC's entertainment reporter Chloe Melas joins us now with the details. Chloe, walk us through this decision from the Texas State Parole Board. Was it a surprise?
So many of Selena's family members and obviously her devoted fans, they want Yolanda Saldivar to remain behind bars. So it is a win for all of them. Here is what we know, because it's really shrouded in secrecy as to how this decision was made. But we know that it was a 3-person parole panel, and Yolanda Saldivar did not appear before a hearing. We don't know if anyone from that parole board spoke to her, but we know that they did their own investigation. They re-examined documents. They did interview some people. There had to be a majority vote, and although we don't know what that vote was, in a statement today, they did say that Yolanda is still a continuing threat to public safety. But what is interesting, Ellison, is that in 5 years, Yolanda Saldivar will be up for parole again, and she will go through this process all over.
Chloe, have we heard anything from Selena's family or even Yolanda's?
Yeah, so we haven't heard anything from Yolanda's family, but Selena's family, they did just release a statement moments ago. And what they said is that they are very thankful to the parole board for coming to this decision. And they go on to say that although nothing can bring their daughter, the wife of this family, back, that they are so grateful that Yolanda Salvidar continues to remain behind bars. And I do want to point out, though, that Yolanda and her family have been very vocal over the last few years. And last year on Peacock, there actually was a documentary called Yolanda and Selena, The Secrets Between Them. And Yolanda has maintained that this shooting was an accident, that it's not how it was portrayed in the movie that famously starred Jennifer Lopez, that Yolanda, who was running Selena's fan club, was embezzling money and that that's why they met at the Days Inn motel that day. Yolanda has always maintained that Selena allegedly was having an affair with a local doctor and that Yolanda was the only one who knew this deep secret and that that's the reason why they met that day to discuss it, and that although Yolanda had a gun, that it accidentally went off. But authorities, Ellison, have always said that Selena was shot in the back and that it's very clear based on their investigation and evidence at the crime scene that she was trying to escape that day from that motel room. Obviously an incredibly sad story, and this is a breaking news just happening moments ago.
Chloe Malas on that breaking news for us. Thank you. Now to South America, where the cause of death of 3 American women found in a Belize hotel has been revealed. Local media now reporting a toxicology report shows the 3 women who were vacationing from Massachusetts died of exposure to carbon monoxide poisoning. For more on the latest in this investigation and what we can do to protect ourselves ahead of this summer season, let's bring in NBC's George Solis. George, this news comes after the families of these 3 women had been advocating and pushing for answers, right? After no substances were found in their body. Walk us through what we know about all of this.
Yeah, Ellison, authorities believe the women may have been exposed to carbon monoxide from a faulty water heater in the room they were staying at the Royal Cahal Beach Resort. Now, the police commissioner there noted their bodies showed no signs of injuries. Authorities also finding alcohol and gummies in their room, but toxicology tests, this is crucial, revealed none were in their systems. Now, the 3 women were identified as Kautar Naquad, Imain Mala, and Wafe El Arar. Now, in a statement from the families of the 3 women, they note they are shattered by the loss, but continue to await the results of a separate independent review done by authorities in Massachusetts. Now, however, the families also note the findings did put to rest their initial concerns about the circumstances of the case, but urged authorities in Belize to continue their investigation and thank them for re-examining the case. The families, Ellison, also asking for patience and privacy.
George, talk to us about the advice experts have for people traveling. I think for a lot of us, we know carbon monoxide is dangerous. You don't always sense it, but we don't really think of looking out for it when we are traveling. What should people do to protect themselves from potentially being exposed if they're on vacation?
Yeah, Ellison, one of the key things you could do is to go out into any hardware store and purchase one of these, a portable carbon monoxide detector. Now, this is not going to replace your smoke alarm or anything like that, but if there is carbon monoxide in your room, this will detect it. This is going to run you about $50. There are cheaper ones out there, but you just want to make sure that they do have a battery installed. There's usually a green light telling you, and they do detect that dangerous carbon monoxide and can give you that first sign and warning to get out of any situation that may be dangerous. Now, again, we're not clear if there was one working in the room or not at this time, but nevertheless, again, something like this could make that difference between life and death. Allison?
Really helpful advice. Great reporting. George Solis, thank you. When we return, we're going to take you to Greenland. Our correspondent on the ground there, what residents are saying about President Trump's interest in their country. And horror below the sea, the tourist submarine that sank today, killing 6, how dozens of others survived. We're back with Top Stories news feed, starting with the school bus crash in New Jersey that left at least 1 child seriously hurt. Video shows the bus on its side, and it appears the roof was cut open. Authorities say the bus collided with a van about an hour outside of New York City. The school bus driver and 3 other children were also hurt, but they are all expected to be okay. In Kansas, a child's complaint of a monster under the bed kind of coming true. Police say a babysitter was checking under the child's bed when she discovered a 27-year-old man hiding underneath it. The suspect struggling with the babysitter and allegedly knocking over the child before fleeing the scene. He was arrested the following day. And catch this, police called to a family home in Louisiana after an alligator broke in. Watch as deputies try to wrangle the gator as it writhes around on the family's porch. It was captured and released back into the water. This is not the first time the department has encountered a gator, the sheriff saying it's just part of the job. And late actress Betty White's legacy will live on in the United States with a U.S. postage stamp. The U.S. Postal Service unveiling the new purple stamp with her portrait. If you look closely, you will see that she is wearing a paw print earring that's paying an ode to her animal advocacy work. The stamps are now available for purchase. The Golden Girls star died in 2021, just weeks before her 100th birthday. And in parts of the South today, firefighters in an all-out battle against those massive wildfires. Officials in both North and South Carolina now declaring states of emergencies, with hundreds of people forced to evacuate as the flames grow. NBC's Marissa Parra is there with the latest.
The race is on to fight the flames in the Carolinas. The Table Rock Complex fire now doubled in size within one day, leaving more scorched earth behind it.
You can see how intense the flames got when the fire came through here.
The Table Rock and Persimmon Bridge fires in South Carolina torching nearly 6,000 acres, stoking a new wave of evacuations and aggressive measures to keep it from spreading further.
This is a technique we use called a burnout. So essentially we're using this to bolster our containment lines and to burn out the unburned fuel between the fire break and the wildfire.
Quite literally fighting fire with fire.
Exactly.
This is what we've been seeing. Helicopters like the one you see behind me dropping down so they can connect that orange bucket beneath it. They're going to use that to fill it with water and then drop it where they need to.
But slowing down efforts, the debris left from Hurricane Helene.
During Hurricane Helene, you stayed here.
I did.
From his Hendersonville sandwich shop in North Carolina, Matthew Rogers tells us how the home he called the Cabin of Hope survived Helene, but it didn't make it through the fires.
I saw on Facebook the house on fire, burning. Honestly, I'm thinking about my neighbors, but I kept thinking of firefighters. Honestly, I kept thinking of, because hurricane in that community brought us together.
Rogers, like so many here, clinging to hope once again.
And Marissa Parra joins us now from Pickens, South Carolina. Marissa, you are at the command center there. Talk to us about what you're seeing. What's the plan to attack these fires moving forward?
Hey, Allison. So this is the center of firefighting planning, if you will. All of these cars, these belong to the crew members who are working hard to keep that fire at bay. Now, the one we're right next to is Table Rock Fire, to be specific. And I want to show you the progress that they've made. You see this ridge behind me. It was very difficult to see this even this morning. And if you remember our live shot from yesterday, we were with you live, and this looked very different. We could see the flames creeping over the ridge. But what we saw today was the controlled burn that we talked about in that piece that you just saw. It seems to have been working because those flames have definitely been, kept at bay, look very different than they did earlier. They're going to continue doing exactly that, those water drops in Ellison, of course, hoping that we do not see a repeat of what we saw yesterday where that fire doubled in size. Of course, they're hoping these efforts today that we just showed you are going to help keep this fire contained within that perimeter. Ellison.
Marissa Parra on the ground there in South Carolina. Thank you. Police in Las Vegas tonight saying they've caught the man responsible for setting fires at that Tesla service center last week. That man accused of shooting out security cameras and using Molotov cocktails to destroy multiple cars. It comes amid a string of violent attacks on Tesla locations around the country. NBC's Liz Kreutz reports.
Tonight, authorities announcing the arrest of a 36-year-old man who they say is responsible for using Molotov cocktails to torch several Teslas at a Las Vegas service center.
The suspect's name is Paul Kim.
According to officials, Kim is facing both state and federal charges, including arson, unlawful possession of an explosive, and discharging a firearm into a vehicle.
Our searches revealed numerous items of interest to include multiple rifles, a shotgun, as well as a black backpack with pink paint, face masks.
Police say when Kim arrived at the Tesla service center last week, he began shooting into the surveillance cameras before spray painting resist across the front door and setting multiple cars on fire. Authorities say they're looking into his social media to determine a motive.
A preliminary assessment of the suspect's social media activity indicates some very loose but self-proclaimed ties to the Communist Party USA social media group, as well as social media groups called Revolutionary Communist International, Hidden Palestine, Palestine Action.
The arrest coming amid a rise in violence and vandalism of Tesla locations and cars nationwide. Earlier this week, a 33-year-old man in Texas was arrested for allegedly ramming a mini four-wheeler into multiple Teslas around the city of Texarkana, just one day after incendiary devices were found around a Tesla showroom in Austin.
And Liz Kreutz joins us now live in studio. Okay, Liz, we know the FBI has launched a task force to investigate these attacks on Teslas. Were they involved in this arrest?
Yeah, they were. The FBI local Las Vegas division worked with local Las Vegas authorities to track down this suspect. It was a complicated tracking, thing that they had to do. They had to case 700 different locations, looking at surveillance video to nail down this suspect. They are currently actively looking into whether this incident is coordinated at all with some of the other incidents that we've seen across the country. Right now, they say that there's similarities, but it so far, according to officials, seems like these are isolated incidents that we're seeing.
Okay. And when you look at the totality of what has been happening as it relates to Tesla and just sort of the association with the brand now, is there an impact that we're seeing on their sales at large?
Well, Europe, according to an industry trade organization, says that they've had a 40% drop in sales there. We're going to get Q1 delivery numbers for Tesla next week. So that is what everybody is waiting to see if there's been kind of an impact from these protests. We'll see. But we do know that Edmunds has reported that this month, March, breaks a record for the most people turning in their Teslas.
Really interesting stuff. Liz Kreutz, great reporting. Thank you. Moving overseas now to Greenland, where tonight the island is preparing for a visit from Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife. The two are expected to arrive tomorrow, but the president not backing down on his call for the United States to take control of Greenland. And not everyone is ready for the Vances to come. Molly Hunter is there.
On the eve of an unwelcome scaled-back U.S. visit to Greenland, the competition over the Arctic is heating up. As Vice President J.D. Vance, Second Lady Usha Vance, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and Energy Secretary Chris Wright prepared to fly to the remote Northwest BD Fuchs Space Base to meet with U.S. military personnel, skipping out on the originally planned cultural tour stops in Greenlandic cities. Russian President Putin cautioned the U.S. is serious.
Уважаемые коллеги, друзья.
Everybody knows very well, he said today, about the U.S. plans to take over Greenland. And yesterday, President Trump doubled down.
We need Greenland, and the world needs us to have Greenland, including Denmark. Denmark has to have us have Greenland.
But why the fixation on the largest, least populated island in the world, a territory of Denmark?
Greenland is 80% ice, and as the ice melts, as you can see right here, due to global warming, that's where Trump sees opportunity.
Underneath all this ice lies the prospect of an estimated 1.5 million tons of rare earth elements, as well as oil and natural gas reserves. Strategic Arctic shipping lanes also opening up, and Russia and China together already working on the key northern sea route. Here in the capital of Nuuk, Anders Larsen says they like America here, but not enough to want to be American.
You feel backstabbed and feel like it can be difficult to depend on America in the future.
But it's all about collaboration, says Greenlandic MP Kupanuk Olsen.
We need to learn to dance with the U.S. Yeah, we need to figure out how to
dance together.
Yes, dance together.
And Molly Hunter joins us now from Nuuk, Greenland. Molly, we heard some of the people you spoke to there, but how seriously are they taking this idea from President Trump that the United States could gain control?
Allison, in short, very seriously. So we spoke, and you heard in that piece, Anders Larsen. He runs a water taxi company here in the capital of Nuuk. 20,000 people. Everyone knows everyone. And he said back in 2019, people kind of rolled their eyes when President Trump first brought it up. Very different story here. And he said when Donald Trump Jr. came in January, that is when they realized really that the U.S. meant business. He talked about how for years, and he's actually Danish, but he's lived here for the last 2 decades, he thought of the U.S. as kind of the big brother. They looked up to the American dream. They had a lot of mutual respect. So he thought. He now really feels like that big brother is bullying him. And that MP who we ended on the piece, Ellison, she talked a lot about collaboration, that Greenland is open for business as long as it's not kind of exploiting the people here, as long as it really works in the best interest of Greenlanders. Ellison?
Over on Capitol Hill, Senate lawmakers holding a hearing today to address January's deadly midair collision over the Potomac. Members of the Senate Commerce Committee grilling the nation's top flight officials as investigators still piece together exactly what went wrong. Here's NBC's Tom Costello.
8 weeks since January's midair crash, the FAA today announced all helicopters flying around Reagan Airport must turn on their geopositioning transmitters called ADS-B, but with some exceptions for national security aircraft. ADS-B could have provided more precise location information to controllers. Investigators say the Army helicopter was flying too high when it crashed into the regional jet that night. Today, a commanding general told senators the chopper was flying with its ADS-B transmitter off to avoid public flight tracking software.
The crew, however, was approved to operate with that capability off in accordance with Army policy.
Army policy that continues around D.C.
I am at a loss to come up with any justification for risking the lives of the traveling public with that decision.
Meanwhile, the FAA concedes its own database included more than 15,000 proximity warnings, potential close calls between planes and choppers over a recent 3-year period at Reagan. Yet it took no action. Since the crash, the FAA has restricted chopper traffic around D.C. and is now using AI to identify potential conflicts at 21 other airports.
The next big accident is in the data right now.
Inside the hearing today, family members of the 67 people who died. Tim Lilly's son, Sam, was the first officer on the passenger jet.
This has been the hardest 2 months of my life.
And Tom Costello joins us now. Tom, you mentioned the FAA is using AI technology to identify possible crash risks at 21 other airports. Do we know which 21 or some of those 21? And big picture, how long is this investigation expected to take?
Yeah, so the airports or the cities that they're looking at include Boston, the New York metro area, Baltimore, Detroit, also Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, and along the Gulf Coast and Houston as well. So as you know, those cities often have multiple airports. They're looking at the data to see has there been a series of close calls between choppers and planes that they haven't identified yet. The AI hopefully will help do exactly that. The NTSB says its investigation will take a full year. Ellison.
When we return, the deadly sightseeing trip under the sea. This submarine sinking in a popular tourist destination, killing 6 people. What went wrong? We're back now with a horror under the sea. At least 6 people killed after a tourist submarine carrying 50 people sunk off of the coast of Egypt. Officials are still investigating how it all happened. NBC's Raf Sanchez has this report.
It was billed as an unforgettable tourism experience, a miniature submarine voyage through the Red Sea, admiring coral reefs and exotic fish. But today, it ended in tragedy. The Egyptian government saying 6 Russian tourists, including 2 children, killed when their submarine sank around half a mile off the shore. The cause, unclear and under investigation. But authorities say it happened around 10 a.m. at the resort town of Hurghada. Of the 50 people on board, 29 were taken to hospital, 4 of them in critical condition. The survivors were visited by the regional governor. He says the company was authorized to operate the sub and that its captain had the right paperwork. The company did not respond to our request for comment.
Oh my God.
This man says he took the submarine last year.
At the time, it felt safe. But realistically, if you're going 25 meters down into the ocean into a submarine, can't be that safe, can it?
It comes after a deadly disaster involving tourists last November, when a yacht capsized and sank in the Red Sea, leaving 11 people dead. Today's tragedy also reviving memories of the Titan submersible, the miniature sub that imploded during an expedition to the wreck of the Titanic, killing all 5 people on board. Another undersea adventure turned deadly. Raf Sanchez, NBC News.
In Top Stories Global Watch, at least 5 people hurt in a stabbing attack in Amsterdam, including 2 Americans. Police say the attack happened in Dam Square. That's a popular tourist area. Bystanders tackling and holding the suspect until police arrived. Right now, they say the motive is still under investigation. Torrential rains and flooding in Bolivia, leaving at least 50 people dead and hundreds of thousands displaced. Aerial footage showing flooded homes and farmlands in the highlands near La Paz. Bolivia's president declaring a national emergency, allowing the government there to purchase supplies and deploy soldiers to deliver aid. And Kurdish security forces seizing more than 2 million pills of an addictive amphetamine stimulant in northeastern Syria. 2 people were arrested with the bags of Captagon pills in their possession. Kurdish security forces saying the drug dealers previously worked with Bashar al-Assad's regime. Captagon has been mass-produced in Syria for years. Thank you so much for watching Top Story. I'm Ellison Barber in for Tom Llamas.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.